On July 10th, 2020, that's when the lovely, talented, intelligent Julia became a licensed LVN. Every day is a beautiful day to save lives. Get that shmoney, girl.
It is sure hot today. I wish I had something convenient enough to, fan myself with during these scorching hot summer days. Oh, is this my diploma? How did that? I'm just so silly. I'm just gonna be right there, I'm not trying to show off the symbol of many, many years of treacherous schooling just to get this little thing, And the constant reminder of me trying to get higher education for the sake of achieving the American dream my immigrant parents moved here for. Am I right? Hey folks, my name is Julia and I became a VN graduate from American Career College on May 15th. And on July 10th, that's when I became a licensed LVN. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my nursing journey so far. So let me take us back in time. I started off at SFSU for 2 years as a pre-nursing major. After you're done with most of your prereqs, you have to reapply for their actual nursing program. I obviously did not make the cut. There was only 40 spots each semester and there was like 400 to 600 pre-nursing students, so it was basically the cream of the crop of the cream of the crop. I didn't make it. My grades weren't bad. My GPA was 3.3 at the time. I was like, you know what? Let me just go private. I did try other Cal states, but I didn't get into any of them. So for like the last couple of my prereqs, I decided to just finish off at Chaffey, and then I would apply to West Coast. Now, I know what you're thinking. How did you go from ACC to West Coast and West Coast to ACC? That's a little confusing. I know, but I'll let you know right now. The tea. This isn't the tea. What I'm about to tell you is the tea. So yes, I didn't pass West Coast the first time. I was there for a year trying to do like the rest of the classes that they require for their program. In my second nursing core at West Coast, I was borderline for 2 classes, intro to medsurg and pharmacology. The end of that year was like not the best. Just that season in your life where it's not good on the mental dome, you know what I mean? And I also wasn't used to the workload, everything all at once in a short amount of time. And if I literally had 1% more for both of those classes, I would have stayed. Oh, now I've healed from everything and I'm not sad about it anymore. At the time I really was, and I went deeper into depression, but I had a silver lining and I picked myself back up and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna just take it slow. I'm gonna build myself up and I'm gonna do the LVN route. That's why I decided to go to ACC. I did a lot better at ACC because I was able to have a more solid foundation. And in November, I'm going to go back to West Coast for their LVN to BSN Bridge program. So if you go there, you might see me probably have a mental breakdown and crying, maybe laughing, studying, taking a giant swig of coffee. Fun! Both schools had really good professors. Obviously, you're going to have the ones where you're going to be teaching yourself for the class. When comparing the paces for both of the schools, West Coast is a lot faster and more content heavy. For one term at West Coast, it's 10 weeks. When I first went there, the 10th week was supposed to be our break week. There wasn't supposed to be anything on there. And they changed it to where that 10th week, we were supposed to have our finals that week. I just got burnt out and just other contributing factors. So that's what hit me the most. At ACC, each term was 13 weeks, and because I was used to the pace at West Coast, those 13 weeks really helped me a lot. Both of the school simulation labs are really cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to utilize the one at ACC because at ACC, you don't really have simulation or skills for each term like you do at West Coast. At ACC, you only have to do it for fundamentals and maternal newborn. I already did it with West Coast for fundamentals, but for maternal, I wasn't able to because of Miss Rona. Yep, she is sure something. You know, I was going to get into my experience during COVID, about how it sucks that my last term of LVN school, I had to switch everything onto Zoom, and it really sucked, and it was really hard to learn and concentrate and focus on school. And then also I'm missing out on opportunities that I would have had if COVID wasn't around, going into maternal and OB and pediatrics, but I never got to have the opportunity. And also I never got to have and experience the rite of passage of my nursing journey, that is my pinning ceremony and my graduation, and also thinking about the fear of having COVID. And although I'm taking all the necessary precautions, I'm scared that I'm going to pass it on to my family and my friends. And you get it, of just like the normal feelings of a nursing student in a global pandemic. I studied for about a good 2 weeks, although I really should have studied for a month, but it was okay. I passed with 60 questions. I actually finished in less than an hour. I know, I'm a fast reader, and I even read the questions and the answers twice. For the LVN NCLEX, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. The exit exam for my school was a lot harder than the actual NCLEX. Now before my NCLEX, I had a lot of mental breakdowns because it was just here we go. This is the moment of truth that I'm about to experience. I don't think I should have stressed out as much as I did. What I highly recommend is the day before, just do questions in the morning, and towards the end of the day, afternoon to night, just don't study at all. Just try and relax and take a deep breath, because you've been in school for how many years? You know your stuff. Believe in yourself and you will pass. The day of my NCLEX, my boyfriend actually drove me to my testing site. We woke up early to get coffee, and then he also took me to a park so that way we can take a nice little stroll and just calm down and relax. That really helped me. I have really bad test anxiety, and it was really weird because it was the calmest test anxiety I've ever had, if that makes sense. So, how did I study for the NCLEX, you may ask? Well, I did not read that thick-ass Saunders book. It's a good resource to use. I just did not use my time wisely. So I practiced questions every day on the Saunders program. I would just do study mode. I wouldn't do test mode because I don't like answering questions thinking that I got it right when I didn't. The study mode is really helpful because not only does it give you questions on oh, this is what you should be looking into. It gives you rationale, and it's also basically a study guide. I also utilized ATI. I had different programs on ATI, so I had Capstone. I did that during my schooling, and I also had Batty. I was able to still access it after school was done. I would work one-on-one with a coach online, and I'd have to complete different modules and give summaries on my missed concepts. Doing that really helped me study as well. I also have the Levelup RN flashcards, the one that the goddess that is Kathy Parks sells, and I have the pharmacology and the medsurg ones. I'll go through my ATI books and I'll just jot down other additional notes that I think are important. I'll also follow along going with the flashcards and watching her videos. If you don't have her stuff yet, I highly recommend you do. She has helped me pass my proctor test. I used to do really bad when I was at West Coast. I would never level, maybe level 1, but after going into ACC, I've leveled level 2 and 3s. First of all, you should probably understand what type of learning style you have. For me, I'm an auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learner. Those are the ones that really resonate with me. I like to have different ways of studying, so that way I'm just always mentally stimulated. So what that means for me is that I like to learn by hearing things, by seeing things, and by doing things hands-on. Some of the things that have really helped me throughout the years is recording my lectures. I record it on my phone with voice memos. Other people get an actual device. I like to listen to the lectures when I'm driving around or when I'm just, mindlessly doing things around the house, and that way I'm at least like hearing it repetitively in my head. Another thing I really like to do is color coding and annotating my notes. My textbooks are literally the rainbow. I also like to handwrite my notes, and I'll also use Google Docs to transfer my study guides on there. I really like color coding because it forces you to be engaged with your notes. Like, you literally have to pay attention to it. And I like creating my own study guides because it helps me categorize everything in a way that I can understand it better. My last tip is, after studying certain subjects, I really recommend that you try and explain it to someone else, because then if they get it, then you did a good job of explaining it. You know how to do patient education, and you know the material, so good for you. Marza asked, what was the most important resource that helped you in nursing school? Honestly, it was ATI. ATI I used in adjunct with my lecture books. So my lecture books gave good base on what I should know. It provided the broad knowledge, whereas ATI, it helped hone in on what specifically I should look out for as a nurse. Nursing Anand asked, do you think ATI actually played a big factor in successful preparation for the NCLEX? Yes, it did. When I was first introduced to NCLEX, I took it for granted and I thought it was just very tedious work. And the work is actually worth it. I suggest making your own study guide for the focus review and your missed concepts. ATI really helped me think like a nurse. So for example, let's say you have a patient with sickle cell disease. What lab would be elevated? Before, I would panic because I'd be like, oh my god, I don't know what that I should have memorized. Da, 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 da. But now I can think, okay, I didn't memorize the lab, but since I know with sickle cell disease that the red blood cells die off a lot quicker than the body can handle, the bilirubin will be elevated because the body cannot keep up with excreting it out. So ATI really helped me think more critically in that sense. I got a couple questions asking how to study for pharmacology. Do not study each individual drug. What you should do is study the classes and the corresponding drugs within those classes. Because if you're able to identify medication and be like, oh, this one belongs in this class, then you're going to be able to guesstimate oh, okay, I remember with that class, these are the common side effects, and then you're able to work downwards. Do you know what I mean? No? Yes? Other tips to help with pharmacology is memorize the common endings for certain classes. A lot of drugs are going to have similar or the same endings within different classes. Also, with pharmacology, you should understand what is expected and what is adverse. Things you would expect are not too much of a concern. Things that are adverse are going to be okay, this is in the danger zone. This is something I have to report to the provider. This is something that I have to implement a nursing intervention immediately. And understanding those two separate things, yes, sometimes it'll be confusing because in some textbooks and tests, they'll be used interchangeably, but just understand you're going to have questions where all the answers are going to be correct. They're all the side effects of the drug, but just one, is the highest priority because it's going to put your patient in the most danger. So that is the correct answer when you have those types of questions. Reese Simpson asked, how do you manage working, social life, and sleep while in nursing school? So before, I didn't. I'm a lot better now. Throughout school, I worked as a personal assistant. I used to be a preschool assistant teacher, and I was an activities assistant for a nursing home. Towards the end of West Coast, I quit my job to put more focus in school because I was just overwhelmed with everything. So I was lucky that I had parents that were willing to support me while I was in school. And when I went to ACC, I chose not to work because although it was 13 weeks for each term, every single day I had class and I was not able to pick my schedule. And I also just didn't want another repeat of West Coast. So I was like, you know what, let me invest in myself and not work and just do this. For social life, at West Coast, I would go out and I shouldn't have. It was a stress reliever for me because of stuff that was going on, and I learned my lesson the hard way. So when I went to ACC, I didn't really go out. If anything, I would just have lunch with my friends or my boyfriend, And that was all the socializing that I did, because I tried to make it where, okay, I need to eat, so I'm gonna eat with my friends and my boyfriend, and then after that I'll go back home and study. My sleeping schedule could have been better. At West Coast it was really bad. I would do a lot of all-nighters. I mean, I still did it at ACC, but I kept it under control. I wouldn't really do a lot of all-nighters at ACC because I just tried to study more throughout the day instead of like cramming everything the night before. I would still study at night because after I study and I go to sleep, it helps retain information. You really should value your sleep a lot more than studying, because if you know it, you know it, and if you don't, then it is what it is. Marissa asked, how did you pay for nursing school? FAFSA, I took out a couple federal loans, and then when I went to West Coast, I actually had to take out a private loan, and then that private loan transitioned to ACC. I'm not going to get into specifically how much I'm going to owe after I go back to West Coast. Just know that I'm chasing the bag as hard as I am because the bank is chasing me. Carmen Faith asked, I just got accepted in my LPN program. Any advice or certain supplies you recommend? Is a pulse oximeter, a thermometer, and maybe your own like digital blood pressure cuff. I didn't have one because I would just take my blood pressures manually. Sometimes in different facilities there's not a lot of vital sign machines that's available, especially if you're in a time crunch. I like just had my own supplies. That way it was more time efficient and I could just start on my charting a lot faster. Also, like just for studying, I recommend that you get a whiteboard, or you can make your own, a DIY whiteboard. You can just get like a paper protector, put a blank sheet of paper on there, or a diagram, and then just write with Expo marker and then erase it. It works the same and you save money. Again, congratulations on getting accepted into your program. The Margic of Science asked, what is the biggest complaint about your job? So, I'm not working yet as an LVN, but as an LVN student, I would say some of my biggest complaints would be the stigma of being an LVN, me being Filipino, and also my age. But the first one, there's a stigma against LVNs just because we're levels below an RN and a BSN, and that shouldn't matter with the amount of respect you give to someone. In regards to being Filipino, obviously there is a stereotype that Filipinos are all nurses. What I hate about that stereotype is that it totally downplays all the Filipinos that are in nursing. I'm always greeted with, do you even really want to be here? Like, my choice of being in nursing school is always questioned with doubt. With other people, if it was a different race, it would be like, oh wow, like you want to help people, you want to be a hero, you want to do this and that, and it's just like, I want to do that too. That is why I'm here. I have the heart and capacity to be in this profession that I love. And then the last complaint that I have is my age. Obviously, as you can see, I have a baby face. I'm gonna be 23 at the end of this month, but I still get carded at the movie theater for rated R movies. Because of how young I look, it is hard to gain respect and also not be treated like a kid. Yes, I'm young and I'm new and I'm learning, but that doesn't mean I'm incapable of being a nurse and doing this job. I may ask, do you regret taking the LVN route? Although it wasn't part of my original plan, I don't regret taking the LVN route. I am thankful that things turned out this way for me because I'm a lot happier now than I was a year ago. And let's say in an alternate universe, I passed those borderline classes. I wouldn't want to be that borderline person. I'd rather pick the person who I am today. Taking the LVN route really helped build my confidence, and it also helped with my foundation of knowledge. For me personally, this is the route that I had to go through. Not everyone has to go through this, but for me, I did. Get Ready With Me Nursing asked, what did you enjoy most about your nursing school experience and what made you grow the most? Was the people that I got to meet, whether it was my classmates, my teachers, and the patients. I was really inspired by everyone's stories. The different struggles and the different successes that we all got to share with each other. Although not everyone was close with each other, since our program was literally every single day, it felt like a family, and it was really motivating seeing how everyone had their own different paths in life, and we all ended up in the same place, and that to me is very beautiful. And it was also really motivating seeing a lot of parents as my classmates. Literally, that is like 3 jobs. You're a student, you're a parent, and you have a side job as well. And it was like, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. So it was another like pick me up. And the thing that made me grow the most in nursing school was when I got kicked out of nursing school the first time. It really opened up my eyes, although it threw me into like a really bad place, because I would literally wake up with days where like there would just be a blank space whenever I would think about my future. Like looking back now is crazy, because it's just like that point in my life with school, with things that were going on, just like, that was my rock bottom. And now it's just like, okay, it's really cool, because it's like, you know what, that was my ground zero, so let me like just keep going up and see where else I can go from here. My failures aren't entirely negative, they're just redirections. And if you're gonna take away something from this video, I hope it's that little piece of optimism. Lulu asked, what specialty do you want to get into? I used to want to get into pediatrics, but since I didn't really have a lot of experience during my last term at LVN school, and also my teacher was assigned to the class like the week before class started, it was just kind of all over the place. It was over Zoom, and also I didn't get clinical experience. I just don't want to aim for it right now, because I don't feel like I'm ready. Maybe later on when I'm done with like my BSN, I'll get into it. After working in the nursing home, I was inspired to go into geriatrics. In regards to my end goals, I want to work in public health. I want to help out with preventative care and education. I also want to become a nursing professor. I just really like seeing that light bulb go off when I'm explaining something to my classmates and they're like, oh, I get it. And I was like, cool, okay, I helped you out. So I just really like that feeling. Also, 2 of my like favorite professors like told me like, hey, you should probably go into education. And I was like, hey, I didn't know you knew that I wanted to go into that. And if you didn't know, that's really cool that you saw that in me. And it was just very validating to hear that 2 of my favorite instructors recommended that for me. One of them also told me that I can practice as an NP and also teach students while attending to patients. Those are like the best of both worlds, and that is something that I want to get into one day. Just not right now. Just gonna focus on working as an LVN first, and also study for my BSN one step at a time, you know. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to. Well, that was a long video. Hopefully this video is helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye!